Oh, yes. What's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday night. It's 10 o'clock Central Time. Dana White's Contender Series just ended. Bo Nickel got the contract. And I don't want to rub it in all the haters' faces or anything, but I predicted that Bo Nickel would win this fight and get the contract. So in your face, haters. Once again, your Uncle Weezy comes out on top smelling like a rose. But wow, great performances all around tonight on Dana White's Contender Series. Definitely some great finishes, some great fights. There's one dude just baptized the canvas with blood. It was nuts. Really enjoyable fights there. And we've got some really enjoyable fights to watch coming up this Saturday in Vegas, but I don't know how enjoyable they're going to be to bet on. That we have to all kind of find out together, don't we? So we're going to comb through all 13 of these fights from a stats perspective, from a tape study perspective. We're going to get you guys all the numbers. The numbers that you're going to see today in the video are available on my Patreon. The address to the Patreon is scrolling underneath the screen right now. And for $5 a month, you can get the basic tier of the Patreon where I have the matchup stats that you always see. You get access to my track bets, to the Discord where we talk fights, all that good stuff. And for $20 a month, you get access to that amazing prop template that I've put together, which gives you probably the best data-driven look you're going to get anywhere on the web when it comes to making over-under and fight goes and fight doesn't go bets on the UFC. So check that out at the Patreon. I'd like to thank all you guys that are watching tonight, and I'm hoping that we find ways to stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 61. But in order for us to do that, we got to put in the work. We got to do the research. And we had a week off last week. The week before that, it was a good week. We hit our second straight greasy 4-leg parlay, which actually wound up being a 3-leg parlay, but don't tell anybody that. But yeah, 2 in a row for the greasy 4-legger. This one turned into a 3-legger because Sarah McMahon, one of the legs obviously didn't fight because Aspen Ladd didn't make weight. So yeah, we hit that. A good tracked week. Up a little over a unit, if I'm not mistaken. Definitely ran into a couple of bad spots. Daniel Zellhuber was Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week, and boy, did he shave the ass of those that bet on him this week. He did not shave the ass of his opponent, Trey Ogden. Maybe some UFC jitters there for the young man. He's very, very young, and he's got a high ceiling. I think he's going to put it all together later on in his career, but really kind of a dud of a performance to start off. And that was, really the big hit. That was a 4.6 unit swing for me, was him losing that fight. So it could have been an absolutely massive week, but hey, another winning week. I think I've got 7 out of the last 8 weeks are winning weeks. So we got to keep that ball rolling. And we've only got 1 week to do it because next week there's going to be another week off, you guys. So let's try to find some spots that stick out this week. I think I've only got 3 tracked bets so far. I'll tell these guys all about them a little bit later on once we're done breaking down all the fights and before I give you this week's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. Want to see what's up to everybody that's in the chat right now hanging out with us. First one in the room is my guy Daz Files saying, "Oi, still chuckling after learning about dick sauce." Yeah, if you haven't checked out Stat Diggers, go check out Stat Diggers. It was where we kind of talked about, I kind of birthed the term dick saw here on Stat Diggers when it came to, running into a bad performance, in the UFC. And also we found out about the band that I was in many, many decades ago called 69 Dick Saws. We were ahead of our time. But, obviously there was not much success for us in that time. It's all politics anyway when it comes to music. We got Victor De Jesus is in the room saying, "Oi, yes, what's up, Weezy and chat? Man, I need both Ricci and Brown to win. or else Sunday morning I'll be on a random street corner holding a sign. Anything helps. God bless. Oh God, I hope it doesn't come to that, Victor. I mean, I'm definitely picking both Ricci and Brown to win here, but it's MMA. Anything can happen, but I don't think you're going to be out on the streets holding that sign. And you're saying what's up to Daz Files. We got JSJ saying, "Oi, feels like a lot longer than 2 weeks." Yeah, man, doesn't it? Doesn't it? But that's how it goes, and it's going to probably feel like a lot longer than 2 weeks when we come back for the next card, which is the Araujo versus Grasso card in Vegas, prior to what's going to be the most fantastic card of the year, and that's UFC 280. So I'm really looking forward to that one. But in the meantime, we got to get through these next two ones, find ways to stack a few more winning tickets here before we go into 280 guns blazing. So we got JSJ saying no fans or media allowed on Saturday. Pin drop silent Apex will definitely impact some performances. Yeah, some weird rumors about why that's going to happen. Not sure what's happening there, but I guess we will find out what the reason for that is. But yeah, who knows? Well, I guess we'll find out. But it's really odd, that we just heard about it like this week, that there's no media, no crowd at all. Really wild stuff. So we'll see how that all goes and how it does impact the performances. But either way, I think we're going to see a lot of violence on this card, in the small cage especially. And we got Prince of Mischief 2225 saying, "Oi, yes, want to hear something crazy? Jay Ellis, 16 wins, 106 losses, has a win over Gerald Meerschaert. That was GM3's second pro fight. That's crazy. Wow, I can't believe that." But yeah, we're talking about Jay Ellis because Jay Ellis fought Don Shainis just a couple of fights ago. And I think Don Shainis might have handed him his 104th career loss. Oh, and by the way, got a cold beverage here. It's Tuesday night. It's after 10 o'clock Central Time. We already watched the Contender Series. So get yourself a beverage. Sit back. Enjoy. I'm going to have a sip myself. We got a little bit of work to do, but who says we can't cheat a little bit and have a good time while we're doing that work? That's wild. I didn't know that Jay Ellis beat Meerschaert because Ellis was fighting Shainis at 155 pounds. So to beat Meerschaert up at 170 or 185 would have been something else. Papa Chuck saying, "Yo, crew, how we doing tonight? Weezy time." What's up, Papa Chuck? It's good to see you in here. We got President Camacho saying, "I'm from the future. Bo Nickel first loss comes from Nasruddin Imavov." Write it all down. President Camacho, who will be president in the future, when everybody is even stupider than they are now, is telling us how it's going to be. I can't wait to put a big plus money bet on Nasruddin Imavov versus Bo Nickel when that fight happens. Immaculaton 3 saying, "Let's eat. We've been sitting on these plays for a while now. Let's go. Let's get it." And we got my guy Brady, my co-host for Stat Diggers on Pub Sports Radio, now Pub Culture TV, saying, "Oi!" And he had one of the best tweets ever, talking about my band 69 Dick Sauce. It's so good. The Cuban assassin is in the room saying, "What it do, Weezy? Good to have you back. I was DJing last week and some guy in skinny jeans asked me to play some Euro House. I was going to make that emergency call to the orderlies. Let's fucking go." Dude, Euro House is the worst. It was the worst. Even when I was in college, man, it was like with, they would have the Euro House CDs and they were all just hot garbage. You should have just like threw them out of there. Nobody would have blamed you. Thanks for hanging out, man. We got Addicted to Combat, my guy Patrick. While I'm having my beverage here, he's probably got his cigar and he's sitting back enjoying the show here. Good to see you in here saying, "What up, Unc? What up, Patrick?" Ah, that's nice. And we got Daz Files saying, "On PH in Sun Park. Hi, all. Let's go. Let's do it." DJ Marshall saying, "Let's go." We got Lou Betya saying, "Bo Nickel should fight on this card." Yeah, dude. I don't even think he got his heart rate up. It was so quick. Richard Grieco in the room saying, "Oh, yes. How was the week off, Weezy? It was nice. It was very nice. Caught up on a couple of things with my database and with updating the analytics and the prop template. And I'm trying to re-envision a whole new display of the stats and a whole new template for next year that will make the prop template even better, because I want to include all the time stats from pre-UFC in that prop template as well, to add another layer of analytics to it, to add some more value to the advanced Patreon members. So I've been working on that. The grind never stops, Richard Grieco, as I'm sure you know, as you and Johnny Depp used to have to grind away to find all these people who are trying to sell drugs to kids on 21 Jump Street. So God bless you for the work that you've done on the streets, keeping us all safe. And thank you for hanging out for Just a Tip with Uncle Weezy tonight, my man. We got Prince of Mischief saying, ass shaving prediction, Randy Rude Boy Brown. That is not a bad prediction. We will see if you are right again this week, Prince of Mischief. We got Reggie Didjuin saying, girlfriend broke up with me, but Uncle Weezy's streaming, so who cares? Let's go. Reggie, you're going to be back out there on the market, enjoying yourself, enjoying single life. You just got to take the necessary time it takes to get over her. And then once you're over her, then you get back out there and you enjoy single life, my friend, because some of us people who have been in relationships for a very long time envy the single people sometimes, you know. Having that freedom is not a bad thing, my man. So I hope it all goes well for you, brother. Big ups. We got Prince of Mischief saying, it sucks that I don't have much on this card. One bet so far. And after it's over, we get another week off. Oh, yeah, dude, I hear you, man. And it's a light card for me, too. Trust me. No reason to force spots. We take what they give us. And if they're not giving us anything, sometimes we got to sit back and say, we'll wait for you to give us something. And then we got Ice Viking saying Ladd missed weight and they both got cut. Yes, they did. And I think McMahon wanted to be cut. I think she wanted to be out of her contract. And I mean, like, McMahon's 42 years old now. So maybe she's got other plans going forward. I think she just opened her own gym, as a matter of fact. So, yeah, that's right. Papa Chuck saying, what's the best thing for shaving ass? A dick saw. You got that right, man. I love it. And we got Justin Villegas saying, I never got to see Abe Lincoln speak in public or watch the moon landing on TV live, but I get to tell my children I saw Bo Nichols fight. Yeah, that's right. That's right, man. And Bo Nichols, pretty special. JSJ saying, subscribe to that Patreon. No brainer for anyone involved in UFC betting. I appreciate that, Jazz. That means a lot, my man. It means a lot, dude. And I appreciate everybody that has already signed up to the Patreon. It means a lot. And we got Elon Musk versus the Zuck. Yeah, there's something going on with Zuckerberg, and yeah, I've heard those rumors. I'm not going to say anything about it because I don't know what's going on. I don't know what the reason. I would just be talking out of my ass, and you guys hear me do that enough already. We got Justin saying Jay Ellis, dude, becoming a myth like Paul Bunyan, the giant tree cutter. All of a sudden, 6 degrees of JMMA edition. Yeah, you got that right, dude. Jay's fought a lot of people, over 100 pro fights and over 100 pro losses. My guy, Mr. Finland, Jarno Portillo in the room saying, oi, let's go, Weezy. What's up, Jarno? Good to see you in here, my man. And we got Lauren Williams giving the old wave. What's happening, Lauren? Good to see you in here. We got Triple X Soundtrack, King of Euro Music. Love it. We got Kevin saying DWCS Season 6 was great, but Just the Tip is back in the number one spot for MMA content on a Tuesday night. It never left, Kevin. It never left. The 100 viewers that I get here some nights is way more than the Contender Series gets. Come on, who we kidding? But I appreciate you, Kevin. Yeah, now that it's over, you know, this is hopefully one of everybody's favorite things to do besides the Contender Series. So I appreciate that, man. And we got Jazz saying 6 fighters on this card, aged 38 plus, feeling all kinds of violence. Yeah, man, it's not a bad look, dude. And my guy Cody, Blood Money MMA Bet, saying, let's go. Great show, Weezy. I appreciate you, my man. Congrats on getting to 1,000 subscribers. We got Obnoxious American MILF #1 saying, have you ever seen a Bo Nickel type of fighter in the UFC before? Hamzat. Anybody that came in like just, you know, like Hamzat at this point, dude, I think he's got 6 wins, and I think in 4 wins, he didn't even absorb one significant strike or less than, like at most one in 4 of those wins. I mean, it's crazy how dominant he's been. And Bo Nickel's been that dominant in the 2 Contender Series fights, and even in the fight before that, which I forget whether it was an Icon or where he got that fight, but that dude ran into a dick saw too when Bo walked into the cage. So yeah, I mean, that guy, it's just whatever the poor hapless individual signs on to fight that dude next will be the next person that walks into a dick saw. And who knows how many dick saws there are going to be until Bo Nickel gets a crack at the belt. But one step at a time for Bo. But man, looks like that dude's future is very bright. And Blood Money saying, Papa Chuck, Ice Viking, and Luke Betio, what's up, guys? Good to see you in here. The king of NPCs saying, Bo Nickel needs to fight real guys. He would be a Terrence McKinney. He could just be a Terrence McKinney for all we know. Yeah, we got to find out. And, they're probably going to move him up the ladder fairly quick. But, he still only has 3 pro fights. So we're going to have to see what the UFC has in store for him. They might lather him up a little bit first before they finally get him out there and start feeding him the top 25 guys. But we'll see how it goes. And we got Papa Chuck saying that Blood Money, yo, Cody, just enjoying my Tuesday night. How about you? And King of NPCs saying this guy's best win is against a 3-0 guy. Yeah, no, he's got to step up, but he's doing what he's supposed to be doing right now. And we'll find out once he faces some guys, that have got, more than 5 professional fights and, have got maybe some UFC experience under their belts. After the 10th loss, I find a new line of work. Taking damage in CTE is not worth it. Imagine coming home and knowing you're the worst. Well, yeah, he's a pro, though, so he's not the worst. I mean, if that guy got into a fight on the streets, he'd probably be whooping just about anybody's ass, but he gets in that cage and he's fighting true professionals, and he's taking these fights just to take them. And, I mean, 69 losses by submission. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. But, yeah, JLS is a bit of a legend, man. And let's see. Damn, my phone is messing up at work with no service. What's up, everyone? Damn, that sucks, dude. I hope it gets going for you, man. King of NPC saying, who just got beat in the headlining fight? That was Donovan Beard. Got to keep it short tonight. Good luck, everyone. Just wanted to show some love. Old lady wants some time, and she doesn't believe in Uncle Weezy and chill. It's all right, Justin. Go have fun with your girl. We got EB saying, I've seen this movie so many times. Bo is way too overconfident. And we got Blood Money saying, Papa, my post posted, then went away. I'm doing great. This is the spot to be on Tuesday night. Dude, yeah, absolutely, man. I appreciate all of you guys that are hanging out with us right now, all 37 of you. Let's get into it, man. I'm going to share my screen, and let's see. There we go. I've got my stats up here. I will zoom in on them a little bit so you can see them, and we will go to the banner and start with our first fight of the night. But before we do, how about another sip of a beverage here before we get to the real work of breaking down all 13 of these fights from a stats and tape study perspective. And once we've broken down all 13 of these fights, and I've finished most of this Rawaka Mania lovely beverage from Hop Butcher Brewery, the unofficial sponsor of Just the Tip with Uncle Weezy, Hop Butcher. If you want to get good and fucked up on good beer, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start with the first fight of the night, and it's a great way to start off this card. It's going to be Guido Ninja Cannetti against Randy the Zohan Costa. We got Cannetti as a plus 245 underdog, Costa minus 290 as the favorite. And the fight doesn't go to decision. And all these lines are courtesy of betonline.ag. Fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 500 right now. So obviously we are expecting some violence here. And let me see. I got to go all the way up in my notes, and for some reason it's not letting me. All right, wait just a second, you guys. I apologize. I got to do this. Yeah, we got 20 pages of notes here. That's how your Uncle Weezy rolls for this show. So we're going to start with the measurables here. And as we can see, Randy Costa's got a lovely measurables advantage in this fight. He's got, 14 years younger, 3 inches taller. He's got a 5-inch reach advantage, and he's a switch stance fighter while Guido is a southpaw. Randy's also training at Kill Cliff MMA, so he's a good camp where he should be making solid improvements to his game. Kid's only 28 years old, only 9 professional fights. So we can expect to hopefully see some improvements here from Randy as time goes on, because he's been more of a one-dimensional, right out the gate striker, and short of getting that win in the first 2.5 minutes, he hasn't been successful. So when it comes to the experience, the advantage goes to Guido Cannetti. As you can see here that he's got 6 more professional fights. He's got almost 50 more minutes in the pro cage and over 10 more years as a pro fighter. Guido has the UFC experience advantage also with 3 more fights and over 40 more minutes in the UFC cage. Randy's been the far busier fighter, though, as Guido at 42 years of age only has 15 pro fights in almost a 15-year pro career, while Costa has 9 pro fights in less than a 4.5-year career. In terms of cage time, both guys are very inexperienced, as Costa only has 28 minutes of pro cage time and Guido only has 76. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, the advantage goes to Costa for the finish stats, and the advantage goes to Cannetti for durability. Costa has a 100% finish rate in his 6 pro wins, and all 6 of those wins came under 0.5 rounds. Cannetti has a 77% finish rate in 9 pro wins. Neither guy is durable at all. These guys have been finished in 8 of their 9 combined pro losses. Cannetti has 1 loss by decision, though, in 6 losses, while Costa has been finished in all 3 of his pro losses and doesn't have the cardio to go 3 rounds. So I have to give the durability edge to Cannetti. If I have to give it to one of these 2 guys, Cannetti, I guess, is more durable than Costa. When it comes to the striking numbers, I'm going to give the advantage to Costa here. And let's get these numbers up on the screen here. Randy's very dangerous, obviously. He's a high-volume striker with dangerous head kicks coming from both stances, coming from both, he'll do a switch kick, and he'll also throw that kick on the same side from the power stance as well. So he's got 3 knockdowns in only 25 minutes of UFC cage time. He's landing 6.73 significant strikes per minute, and he comes out blasting like Yosemite Sam. He goes all out for the finish, and if he doesn't get it, he kind of gives up in the second. Guido has nice UFC striking metrics. He's got a 0.58 significant strike differential. That's positive. He's got 55.3% striking accuracy, while Costa's got a negative 0.87 significant strike differential, and he's getting outvolumed by his opponents by about 3.89 significant strike attempts per minute. Costa will be dangerous on the feet, but if Guido pressures, that will be his best win condition, because we saw Costa that he needs room to get his kicking game going. And we saw Tony Kelly beat him with forward pressure and volume. Guido should bring that same game plan if he's interested in winning this fight at all. Because if he just stands in front of Randy Costa and trades head kicks and heavy kicks with this guy, I don't think it's going to go well for him. Neither one of these guys has the best chin in the world, but Randy Costa's got legitimate power. And, he's very fast, and he's constantly switching stances. So very difficult guy to figure out. And if you don't figure him out quickly, you're definitely gonna probably eat some big shots early. The question is, can you make it past that early storm? And if you can, you've got a really good chance to beat this guy. So I feel like even though Costa's a minus 290 favorite here, in the striking, if Cannetti is constantly walking forward, not allowing Costa to set his feet, not allow him to stay in kicking range at distance, if he's just walking forward, getting into punching range, getting Costa to back up, and potentially mixing in the wrestling early, I think he's got a chance, to get past the danger zone and then to maybe kind of ease into his fight and potentially get a win here. because I got to give this grappling advantage here to Cannetti. Costa doesn't grapple at all. Cannetti's averaging 1.98 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he's out-controlling his opponents 23.3% to 18.7%. So we can see just from those two numbers that this guy's in control time positions about 42% of his fights. It's about 3 out of 7 seconds. Now, Randy Costa is also in control time positions about 34% of the time. But he's only had one takedown attempt, and his opponents have only had one takedown attempt, and there have been no takedowns completed in his fights, only knockdowns. He's absorbed a knockdown, and he's gotten 3. So the control time has come from cage control time and from ground control time after knockdowns. So Cannetti's the kind of guy who will be the guy who's more likely to wrestle here. He's gotten 9 of his 18 takedowns. He's averaging almost 2 takedowns per 15 minutes, and he's almost controlling his opponents 1 out of every 4 seconds that he's in the UFC cage. So I feel like if there's one guy that's more likely to initiate the grappling and potentially get takedowns here, that's Cannetti. The strength of schedule advantage also goes to Cannetti, in my opinion. Let's look at the numbers here. Prior to being in the UFC, Costa only had 2.43 minutes of cage time in his first 4 pro fights. 2.43 minutes. That's how long his first 4 fights lasted. He was the ultimate can crusher. At the UFC level, Guido has the slightly better ratio overall, 1.18 compared to 1.1 for Randy Costa. And he's also fighting the more experienced competition with 6 total fights compared to 4.2 for Costa. Costa's wins have a better ratio, but Guido's wins were against slightly more experienced dudes. The strength of schedule is very close, but it edges Guido here. So in summary, Randy Costa has a huge measurables advantage here. He's been the far busier pro fighter. He's got a 100% finish rate, and he has the striking advantage, while Guido has the pro and UFC experience advantages, the grappling advantage, the slight strength of schedule advantage. I like Costa to win this fight, but I think the line is entirely too wide. I love the under 1.5 for this fight, as 8 of their 9 combined pro losses are finishes, and all 6 of Costa's pro wins have come under 0.5 rounds, and he clearly has pacing and or conditioning issues. That being said, I think there are paths to victory for Cannetti here. If he pressures and mixes in takedowns early, he could win this fight. I'm picking Costa to win by first round KO. However, I like the plus money on Guido here, and I love the violence bets for this fight, and I already do have a tracked bet on the under 1.5 for this fight. I could not stay away from it. Randy Costa, I believe, has never been over 1.5 rounds, or maybe one of his UFC fights did go just over 1.5. I think the most recent one might have. Let's take a look. So Costa, the Tony Kelly went to 4:15 of round 2, but every other fight in his entire career has been under 1.5. So, I mean, that's a nice sample size to have, 8 of 9 fights going under 1.5 rounds. And for Cannetti, it's something similar. And if you look at the prop template here for this fight available on Uncle Weezy's Patreon, you see the Costa Cannetti fight here, the under 1.5 at minus 145, even though it's a 59.18% implied probability. These guys in their 13 UFC fights are under 1.5 rounds 69.23% of the time. So we're getting a 10% break there. And these guys in their 13 UFC fights are finishing under 1.5 rounds at a 38.43% rate higher than what the division does as a whole. So I'm expecting violence for this fight. I've bet the under 1.5. The pick is Costa by first round knockout, but I'm not betting Randy Costa because I think the line is entirely too wide. Let's go to this next fight, though, as we have got Chelsea Chandler at minus 105 going up against the Lithuanian Ronda Rousey Julija Stoliarenko, Lithuania, stand up. This is your only fighter left on the UFC roster now that Modestas Bukauskas was cut. So Julija Stoliarenko, the lone fighter to carry that flag right now in the UFC. The fight doesn't go to decision. It's sitting at plus 130 for this fight. Let's see here. Oh my God, we got a donation. Ring a ding ding, you guys. We got XXA Money 823 saying, Weezy, we cashed out heavy on Sandhagen. I slapped Sandhagen TKO round 4 prop. The cash out went crazy. Dude, that's nuts because you got it after the 4th round ended. And then you're sitting there waiting for that doctor and you're just screaming at the television, stop the fight, stop the fight. Don't let him come out for the 5th because I cashed this bet. And you cashed it. Let's go. Way to go. And I appreciate so much the donation. I didn't even put it up there on the screen, but there it is, you guys. XA Money 823. Lighten me up with the donation, the first donation of the show. I appreciate you so much, brother. Let's get on to this next fight, though, as we've got Chandler versus Stoliarenko here. And so let's get these stats up on the screen. And let's see. We have got Julija Stoliarenko is going to be at a measurable disadvantage here, even though she's the younger fighter. So Chelsea Chandler has had several fights at 140 and 145 in her career. So she's the bigger woman here. She's had a 1-inch height advantage and she's got a 3-inch reach advantage. But Julija is actually the younger fighter, despite the fact that she's a lot more experienced as a mixed martial artist here. So definitely like Stoliarenko's youth here, but I like Chelsea Chandler's size. In the experience, the advantage goes to Stoliarenko, obviously. And I'll get these stats here up on the screen. Let's zoom in a little bit more for you guys, because I know that my screen doesn't show off the best here. But yeah, so Julia's got 13 more professional fights. She's got over 100 more minutes in the pro cage and over 6 more years as a professional fighter. Julija obviously has the UFC experience advantage as well, as Chandler makes her debut on Saturday. 5 more UFC fights and 60 more minutes in the cage in comparison to Chelsea for Julija. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, I'm giving the advantage to Stoliarenko. Julija has a 90% finish rate as a pro in comparison to 50% for Chandler. All 9 of Julija's finishes are by submission. She's the Lithuanian Ronda Rousey, as I mentioned, as she always goes for the armbar. Chandler has 1 win by knockout, 1 win by submission, and 2 wins by decision in her career. Chelsea has never been finished, but she's faced much lower level competition in comparison to Julija. Julija is very durable. She has no quit in her. She's been finished in 1 of 4 UFC losses. The striking advantage goes to Chandler here, in my opinion. We don't have any striking stats on Chandler, but we can bring Julia's stats up here. Chelsea's got really heavy hands. I've seen her land several knockdowns in her regional scene footage. She's got power in both of her hands. Julia's striking metrics at the UFC level are not impressive, so I can give Chandler the striking advantage here. She's got a negative 1.55 significant strike differential per minute, a 41% accuracy, which isn't great, and a 44% striking defense, which is pretty bad. She's never landed a knockdown or absorbed a knockdown in 5 UFC fights. Chandler is bigger, stronger, has more power, and she's got a 3-inch reach advantage. So I have to give her the striking advantage here. But Julija is dangerous on the feet as well. So I don't see her being seriously outgunned on the feet. And plus, Julija has been in there with some really, top-notch level competition at, Avila. I'm sorry. Even though Jessica Rose Clark is a good kickboxer, that fight didn't box at all. And, we got Alexis Davis, Yana Kunitskaya, Leah Letson. They're all good opponents. But I don't really see Stoliarenko being that badly outgunned on the feet. But obviously, I think if Stoliarenko is trying to win this fight, she's trying to get it to the grappling where she's going to have the advantage. Julija is so dangerous on the ground. She has 9 career submission wins and can sub anybody with that armbar. Chelsea Chandler is a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and she trains at the Nick Diaz Academy, so she's no slouch on the ground. But what we saw Julija almost sub BJJ black belt Alexis Davis with that armbar, so I think she can catch Chandler as well. Chelsea will be smart to keep this in the clinch or at distance if she wants to safely win minutes here. When it comes to the strength of schedule, that's all Stoliarenko. Julija's fought, beaten, and lost to the far better and more experienced competition. Julija's got the youth, the experience, pro and UFC, the finish stats and durability, the grappling, and the strength of schedule advantages, while Chandler's bigger. She's got a 3-inch reach advantage, and she's the more dangerous, powerful striker. Even though Julija is taking this fight on short notice, I think the fact that it's at 140 makes it easier for Julija to not struggle on the scale, and I think she probably wins this fight. It's a big-time show-me spot for Chelsea Chandler here. She needs to fight smart, and this is a huge step up in competition for her, and the UFC jitters are going to be in play for Chelsea's debut. I like Julija to win by first-round armbar, and I think that this line being almost a coin flip, just slightly in favor of Julija here, Julija is not a bad bet, and I think Julija inside the distance is a solid bet as well. And I think that the fight doesn't go to decision at plus 120 is also a very good look. You know, we got Stoliarenko finishing 90% of her 10 wins, and we've got Chelsea Chandler finishing 2 of her 4 wins. Chelsea Chandler's got a ton of power. Julija is extremely dangerous on the ground, and Chandler, you know, is very aggressive. So I could see her winding up in Julia's guard just by pushing too much, just by pressuring a little bit too much. This might just go to the ground without somebody necessarily even having to go for a takedown. So yeah, I'm picking Julija to win this one by first round armbar, and my favorite bets are the violence bets in this spot. But yeah, the pick is Stoliarenko by first round armbar. Next fight is going to be Maxim Grishin versus Phillipe Lins. We got Grishin checking in as a minus 180 favorite, and we've got Phillipe Lins on the comeback at plus 155. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus 100. Yeah, this is a wild one here because, you know, we haven't seen much of Lins at the UFC level, and Grishin is a guy who has 43 professional fights, and he's 38 years old, but yet he's only got 4 fights at the UFC level. So he's fought all over the world, mostly in Russia, and is kind of, you know, seen it and done it all here, while Phillipe Lins is experienced as well, but not nearly as experienced or as busy as Maxim Grishin. So we can see that Lins is 1 year younger and that Grishin is 1 inch taller. Both guys have fought at heavyweight before, but nobody really has much of a measurable advantage here. In the experience, the advantage goes to Grishin for sure. Maxim has 23 more pro fights, as we can see here. He's got 200 more minutes in the pro cage and has been the much busier fighter, as Lins only has 20 pro fights in a 17-year pro career, while Maxim has 43 fights in a 14-year career. Maxim also has a slight UFC experience advantage with 1 more fight and over 20 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, I'm giving the advantage to Lins when it comes to the finish stats, but Grishin when it comes to the durability. Lins has the better finish rate overall as a pro, as it's 80% compared to 69% for Grishin. But Maxim has a UFC finish and 2 UFC wins, while Lins only has 1 UFC win, and it was a decision. And the guy that he beat had been finished in all 3 of his other UFC losses by knockout in the very first round. So Lins was the only guy to beat Prachniow who didn't wind up sleeping him. So Grishin's been more durable, as he's been finished in 6 of his 9 pro losses, while for Lins it's 4 of 5. The only guy to beat Lins and not finish him was Arlovsky, and he hasn't finished an opponent in like maybe a decade or more. I'm going with Lins for finish stats and with Grishin for the durability. When it comes to the striking, I'm giving the advantage to Grishin. Maxim has the superior UFC striking metrics, as we can see here on the screen. Grishin has the superior significant strike differentials. It's positive 1.33 compared to negative 0.85 for Lins. The striking accuracy is better for Grishin at 53% compared to 49% for Lins. The knockdowns per 15 minutes, 0.55 for Grishin, 0 for Linz. And the striking defense is way better. 59.3% for Grishin, 43.5% for Linz. And Linz has allowed 0.46 knockdowns per 15 minutes, while Grishin has never been knocked down. Grishin is better technically as well, as his punches come right down the pipe, while Linz kind of just wings heavy, wide hooks. Grishin arguably beat Dustin Jacoby, who's a fantastic technical kickboxer. So I would say Grishin has a really nice striking advantage here. When it comes to the grappling, I'm going to call it even. Both of these guys mix in the wrestling and have solid metrics. Grishin gets out-controlled, however. At 205, he's even in control time, despite attempting 11 less takedowns than his opponents. Linz wrestled Prachnio quite a bit. He got 4 takedowns, but Marcin didn't allow him to win lots of minutes there. I don't think Linz will be able to win minutes in the grappling against Grishin. I see this mostly being a striking match. The strength of schedule I'm giving to Grishin, as Grishin has the better overall ratio. Here's a look at the grappling stats, and you can download these stats in the description of this video. Or if you're a Patreon member, you already have access to them because you got access to them almost a week ago. But yeah, you can see that, Grishin only has 1 takedown in 4 fights. Linz has 4 in 3 fights. Both of these guys getting less than 20% control time for Grishin, very, very small takedown per 15 number. So I don't really expect either one of these guys to grapple that much. But Grishin does have the better strength of schedule here, as he's got the better ratio. And even though he doesn't have the better total fights, Linz fought Arlovsky, who's got 34 fights, so that's kind of skewed it. But the ratio is much better in the wins here, and he's even fighting the more experienced guys. So in summary, Maxim's 1 inch taller. He has the experience advantage, the durability advantage, the striking advantage, and definitely the power advantage, and the strength of schedule advantages here. While Linz is 1.5 years younger, he has the better finish rate as a pro, and he's got the better control time ratio thus far in the UFC. As we can see, Grishin's being out-controlled 28% to 11.5%, while Linz is out-controlling his opponent 17% to 6%. But then again, he's attempted 11 takedowns and his opponents have only attempted 1, while Grishin has attempted 3 takedowns, but his opponents have attempted 21. So Grishin is just really, really efficient in terms of his grappling exchanges, while Linz has just been more active than his opponents in the grappling, so which is why his numbers are better than his opponents. So yeah, I think that I like the spot for Maxim. He's the more technical and dangerous kickboxer by a good margin, in my opinion. And I think the grappling really isn't going to be a factor here. I think Grishin will be the bigger guy as well. And I think he's going to win this one by KO. So yeah, pick his Grishin by knockout. And I like that number that he's at right now. I think it's a bettable number at -180. So yeah, the next fight is going to be Brendan Allen versus Krzysztof Jotko. So this is an interesting fight. The line right now on this one is Brendan Allen is +115 on Bet Online, and Krzysztof Jotko is -135. Fight doesn't go to decision at plus money, +120. That's a delicious beverage, let me tell you. Let me see what you guys are saying here real quick here. I test Grishin, definitely the better fighter, says Immaculaton. Game time decision, go with public on Jotko versus Allen. Interesting, says Mixed Martial Anarchist. I love that name, Mixed Martial Anarchist. I am an anarchist myself. We got Anthony W. saying, you're giving me more confidence in Grishin with those stats. Thanks for taking the time to break those down. Anthony, that's what we do, baby. That's what we do. And we got my guy B checking in from Canada saying, check you on the flippity flip near midnight Eastern Standard Time. Good night, Weezy Nation. Let's make some money. Let's do it. Let's do it, you guys. And let's see here. Yes. All right, cool. Let's go. Let's get back to these. Okay, so we've got the numbers up on the screen. Brendan Allen +115, Jotko -135. Fight doesn't go, sitting at +120. And let's get the stats up on the screen for this one. Allen versus Jotko. Here we go, you guys. So when it comes to the measurables in this fight, I'm giving it even. Jotko's got a 2-inch reach advantage, and he's a southpaw, while Brendan is over 6 years younger, and he's 1 inch taller. So a little bit of advantages for both of these guys here. The experience advantage, though, definitely does go to Jotko, as he's got 5 more pro fights. He's got 115 more minutes in the pro cage and 5 more years as a pro fighter. He also has the UFC experience advantage with 6 more UFC fights and over 120 more minutes in the UFC cage. The finish stats and the durability, I'm going to give that advantage to Allen because, I mean, Brendan's got the much better overall finish rate, 79% for Allen, 29% for Jotko as a pro. And at the UFC level, Brendan is finishing at a 62.5% rate, while it's only 9% for Jotko. Jotko couldn't finish a banana. Both guys have been finished in 3 of their 5 pro losses. Allen's been finished in his only 2 UFC losses, and Jotko's been finished in 3 of his 5 UFC losses. The striking. Who am I giving the advantage to? That's a good question. Let's just call it even for right now. Brendan Allen is making improvements in his striking. I don't think anybody really expected Brendan Allen to go out there for 3 rounds and avoid the power shots of Punahele Soriano and win minutes on the feet against him. But that's exactly what he did, and he stayed safe. This should be very close in the stand-up, in my opinion. Allen's got the better striking accuracy at the UFC level, 55% for Allen, 42.5% for Jotko. He's got the better knockdowns per 15 minutes here, as he's got 0.51 knockdowns to 0.14 for Jotko. And he's landing more significant strikes per minute, 4.15 landed for Allen, 3.02 landed for Jotko. While Jotko, he's got the superior significant strike differential at 0.76 positive, while it's negative 0.03 for Brendan Allen. He's got the better striking defense at 57%, and for Brendan Allen, it's only 44%. That's terrible. And the knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes, Brendan Allen is being knocked down 0.34 times for 15 minutes, while it's only 0.14 for Jotko. It's a southpaw versus orthodox matchup, so both guys' power weapons are going to be open for business here. But yeah, I think it's going to be close on the feet. You know, I really have a hard time favoring either guy. I think Allen will probably be the more likely guy to win moments, while Krzysztof Jotko will be the more likely guy to win minutes. And Jotko definitely uses his kicks more, and he uses those kicks to manage the distance and keep the distance where he is most comfortable. So Jotko makes a lot of good decisions, you guys, whether it's getting the fight to the ground when he feels overmatched on the feet, or keeping the fight standing when he feels he's got the better striking. Jotko rarely is making mistakes out there. So, yeah, I've kind of got it even. When it comes to the grappling, I'm going to give the submission grappling advantage to Allen. Brendan is very dangerous on the ground. He has a very active submission attack, as he's averaging 1.37 submission attempts for 15 minutes compared to 0.07 for Jotko. And you see that, right? 22.38% control time for Jotko, 23% control time for Allen, but Allen's just way busier with the submission attempts for 15 minutes. So it tells you a lot about how these guys operate on the ground. Jotko is looking to win moments or minutes there and accumulate enough minutes to win decisions, while Brendan Allen's looking to finish fights. Jotko has got the way better takedown defense, though, at 83% compared to 50% takedown defense for Brendan Allen. So if one of these two fighters is going to be able to be the one that decides whether the fight gets into the grappling exchanges or whether the fight goes to the ground, I give Jotko the advantage there, as he's getting his takedowns at about the same 40% rate that Brendan Allen is. He's getting about the same amount of control time. He's getting about the same amount of takedowns for 15 minutes. And both these guys are giving up some control time. But look at this. 83 takedown attempts against for Jotko. He's only allowed 14. And he's got that 83% takedown defense, only allowing 1 takedown per 15 minutes, despite the fact that he's had 83 takedowns shot against him in 16 fights. So he's doing an excellent job of keeping the fight where his opponent doesn't want it. So, yeah, very efficient, both of these guys on the ground, in my opinion, but Jotko's even more efficient. When it comes to the strength of schedule, I got to give the advantage to Brendan Allen here. Allen's got the better ratio at 1.64 compared to 1.22 for Jotko, but it's Jotko who's fighting the slightly more experienced competition. But when it comes to the wins, I like the wins for Allen. 1.43 ratio compared to just under 1.1 for Jotko, and both of these guys fighting experienced guys that they're beating here. And it's just Jotko who's losing to the more experienced competition, but Brendan Allen is losing to the better win-loss ratio competition. You know, we could see a guy like Chris Curtis in there. We could see a guy like Sean Strickland in there for Jotko. And as a matter of fact, both of these guys have lost to Sean Strickland. Jotko lost by decision. Brendan Allen, because he didn't try to take the fight to the ground, got his face boxed off and was overly aggressive against a better boxer. So, yeah, but, you know, he's also survived on the feet with guys like Punahele Soriano and Carl Roberson and the great Sam Alvey. So, very interesting fight here. But, yeah, I'm giving Allen that strength of schedule advantage because of the numbers that we just saw. So, look, Brendan Allen's younger. He's taller. He's the better finisher. He has the submission grappling advantage and the UFC and overall strength of schedule advantage. While Jotko has got a 2-inch reach advantage, he's a southpaw. He's got the overall and the UFC experience advantage, and he has excellent takedown defense and is very efficient in the grappling and clinch exchanges. It's a very close fight that I think goes to decision, and I think Jotko makes better decisions and is the better minute winner, and I'm going to have to pick Jotko by decision here because of that. If I think that this fight's going to go to decision, and I see one guy in Allen who refuses to shoot for takedowns when he's outgunned on the feet, and I see a guy like Jotko who changes the game plan in order to fit what's happening in the moment. I think Jotko is making better decisions in the moment. I think you can count on him to stay safe and to not get hurt. And if he does that, I think he can win this one on the judges' scorecards. But I think it's a very, very close fight. And I think as long as this is on the feet, it's going to be very close to 50-50. It's just going to be up to Jotko to manage that range and to outpoint and to just be a little bit busier than Brendan Allen is. And if he can do that, I think he can get this decision win here. The next fight that we're going to talk about is Joaquim Silva versus Jesse Ronson. Yeah, this is one that was, you know, this is a hard one to kind of break down. But let's look at the numbers here. As we've got Ronson coming in at plus 120. Neto BJJ Joaquim Silva minus 140 is the favorite. And the fight doesn't go to decision, is at minus 145 here. Let's see here. Yes. Okay. Sorry about that, you guys. All right. 66 of you guys hanging out with us right now. My notes have the measurables edge going to Jesse Ronson here. Ronson will be the slightly bigger dude here as he's 2 inches taller and he's got a 1-inch reach advantage. Jesse's a southpaw, which is nice because the last two guys that finished Silva in the UFC, Nasrat Haqparast and Ricky Glenn, were both southpaws. Silva's the younger guy as he's almost 4 years younger than Jesse Ronson is. When it comes to the pro experience, you got to give Ronson the overall experience edge here, as he's got 33 pro fights compared to only 14 for Silva. Hang on just a second. He's got over 220 more minutes in the pro cage and almost 1 more year as a pro fighter. Jesse's also been the far busier fighter, as he has 33 fights in just under 13 years, and Silva has only 14 pro fights in almost a 12-year-long pro career. Silva has a slight UFC experience advantage with 2 more fights and 7 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and durability, I'm giving a slight edge to Ronson. Both guys have almost identical finish rates as pros, 82% and 81% for these guys. And both guys get more knockouts than they do submissions. Ronson has been more durable, though, as Silva has been finished in 2 of his 3 UFC losses, and Ronson has been finished in 4 of his 11 pro losses, twice by knockout, twice by submission, but in only 1 of his 4 UFC losses. So even though he's got 1 more loss than Silva does at the UFC level, he's actually got 1 less finish loss against than Silva does. The striking advantage I'm going to give to Jesse Ronson here. Jesse's a good southpaw kickboxer, and his opponents have always preferred to grapple with him rather than stand in front of him. Jesse has a 0.27 significant strike differential in the UFC, despite the fact that he's 0-4 with 1 no contest at this level. So his metrics are really solid, even though he's been losing. He has the superior accuracy at 48% compared to 38% for Silva. He's got the better knockdowns per 15 minutes, but just slightly at 0.26 compared to 0.23 for Neto BJJ, and the better striking defense at 59% compared to 56% for Joaquim Silva. And he's also never been knocked, or he had Joaquim Silva has been knocked down 0.7 times for 15 minutes, while Ronson has never been knocked down. Joaquim is also a very solid kickboxer. He throws heavy kicks to the head, body, and legs. However, he's been knocked out in his last 2 fights, being sloppy on his entries on power strikes, both times by southpaws, so I have to give Ronson the striking advantage here. When it comes to grappling, got to give the advantage to Joaquim Silva, Neto BJJ. Neither guy really attempts takedowns, and in their 12 combined UFC fights, both Silva and Ronson have combined for only 3 takedowns, and neither guy has averaged more than 5% control time for. Ronson looked like ass on the ground against Rafa Garcia, so Joaquim would be smart to go for takedowns here and make Ronson grapple. But with only 2 takedown attempts in 7 UFC fights, we can't really count on Joaquim to do that. Joaquim is the far better submission grappler as well. He has really good offensive and defensive BJJ, so I'd have to give him the grappling advantage here. If I were laying minus 140 on Silva, though, I'd be pissed off if he chose not to grapple. Because, look, Ronson is clearly going to be the better striker. We see that he's attempted 6 takedowns while his opponents have attempted 35, so he's obviously clearly more comfortable on the feet. And he's getting out-controlled 39.5% to 4%. So, clearly Ronson, is easy to get down and hold down. So if you're not much better of a striker than Ronson, and I don't think Silva's a better striker than Ronson. I think they're pretty evenly matched. I think Ronson's probably a little bit better, but I think Silva is going to have to maybe do something he's not comfortable necessarily doing at the UFC level, and that's initiating the grappling to try to get this thing to the ground where he can be the much more likely guy to win minutes. When it comes to the strength of schedule, I'm going to give the advantage to Ronson here, as we can see a better ratio overall and more total fights overall. And he's also lost to the better competition. But since we don't have any wins for Ronson, we can't really compare it to the wins for Silva. But, Ronson's only win was against Dalby, but then he pissed hot for goofballs. So the fight was overturned to a no contest. But yeah, I'm giving Ronson the strength of schedule advantage here. Jesse's fought the better win-loss ratio and more experienced competition at the UFC level. So in summary, Silva's almost 4 years younger. He has a slight UFC experience advantage and the grappling advantage here, while Ronson is the bigger dude with a 1-inch reach advantage who is a southpaw, has the overall experience advantage, and has been more durable. He's also got the striking and the strength of schedule advantages here. I would pick Silva if I could count on him to grapple or if he was more active, but coming off of 2 straight knockout losses, having only fought twice since 2018, that really worries me here. I like Ronson to win this fight, potentially inside the distance by knockout if Silva's chin really can't be trusted anymore. I like the plus money side on Ronson. Too many questions on the Silva side to lay juice there. Is he going to look good after all this time off, after being incredibly inactive? Is he going to wrestle? Because we haven't been able to count on him to do that in the past. Is his chin going to hold up? Is this going to be the 3rd straight lefty to knock him out with a straight left down the pipe? We're going to have to find out. We'll see how it goes. But I'm picking Jesse Ronson to win this one by knockout. The next fight is going to be Jessica Penne against the Baby Shark Tabatha Ricci. So let's get the odds up here on the screen. And we see that Jessica Penne is a plus 175 underdog. The Baby Shark clocking in at minus 205 here. And the fight doesn't go to decision, juiced up to plus 190 here. So good plus money number on the fight doesn't go there. So let's see here real quick. Yes. All right. So on my notes, I've got the measurables advantage going to Jessica Penne here. She is the much bigger woman with a 4-inch height and a 6-inch reach advantage. However, Tabatha is much younger than Jessica. She's only 27 compared to Jessica Penne's 39. So, even though Jessica is going to be much bigger here, what might be more statistically significant is that 12 years younger that Tabatha Ricci is probably more statistically significant than the 6-inch reach advantage that Jessica Penne has that she doesn't really know how to use very well. When it comes to the pro experience, obviously the advantage goes to Penne at the UFC level and overall, as Jessica has 12 more professional fights, over 100 more minutes in the pro cage, 7 more years as a pro fighter. She also has the UFC experience advantage with 4 more UFC fights and almost 50 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, also have to give the edge to Penne here, as Jessica has the better finish rate as a pro, 71% finish rate for Jessica, only 43% finish rate for Ricci. And she's been finished in a smaller percentage of her losses, has Penne, but that's a little bit misleading because Penne has 6 pro losses. She's been finished 3 times, but Ricci's been finished in her only pro loss, and that only pro loss came against Manon Fiorot up a weight class on short notice, and she was knocked out, I think, in the second or third round of that fight. So even though Ricci's lost inside the distance on a higher percentage of her losses, it's probably Ricci that's going to be more durable here, as Jessica Penne has been finished several times by people that are her size and not on short notice. So anyway, I'm not ready to call Penne more durable than Ricci by any means here. In the striking, I mean, I'm going to call it even because, frankly, neither one of these ladies could hit water if they fell out of a boat. Penne has a 6-inch reach advantage, and she throws straight punches, and she has some nice teep kicks to the body, but I don't really know if she knows how to use that reach advantage successfully here, as she's always gotten outstruck on the feet at the UFC level. Penne has a 45.4% striking defense, which is lousy in comparison to Ricci's 58.4% striking defense. Both of these ladies prefer to grapple. Ricci's pressure should bother Penne on the feet, but I think that whoever wins the grappling exchanges in this fight is going to be the one winning the fight, because if we go to the grappling advantage here, and I'm giving Ricci the grappling advantage, we could take a look at some numbers here and see that Penne's been in grappling positions 30% of her fights, and it's been about 45% for Ricci. So Ricci's fights have definitely been taking place in control time positions, a higher percentage than Penne's have. And there's probably a couple of reasons for that. Both ladies are Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belts, and both are grapplers first. However, it's Ricci who has the much better wrestling and the ability to control her opponents on the ground. Tabatha is getting 3.95 takedowns per 15 minutes, in comparison to only 1.21 for Penne, and she's way more efficient getting her takedowns, as she gets them at a 45.45% rate, does Ricci, compared to 16.3% for Penne. So Jessica and Ricci outcontrols her opponents 42.5% to 2.2%, while Penne's outcontrolling her opponents 20% to 10.6%. So I think Ricci's more capable of winning minutes with her wrestling and top control here, while both ladies can potentially win moments with their submission grappling. That 6-inch reach advantage and longer frame Jessica has could potentially come into play here in the grappling exchanges. Look, this is both where Penne and Ricci both want the fight in the grappling. That's where they both do their best work. And I don't think either one of them is delusional enough to think that they're going to have a striking advantage over the other. They're both pretty lousy on the feet. But Ricci's more aggressive, and the fact that she pressures leads me to believe that she will probably be the minute winner on the feet just because of that aggressiveness. And that can also, if she is aggressive, if she walks forward, if she pressures, like we've seen her do in the past, like she was trying to do that against Manon Fiorot even. So she's not going to be afraid to pressure Penne. She can nullify that 6-inch reach advantage that Penne has. And, she could potentially pressure to get Penne on her back feet and then use that to back her up against the cage and win moments in the wrestling to get the fight to the ground too. And she'll work for submissions from the top, and Penne will be working to try to get Ricci's back and look to use those long arms for chokes. So, yeah, I mean, like that long frame for Jessica could come into play here. The strength of schedule I'm also giving to Penne as she's, let's see, she's fought the better, more experienced competition here. 1.22 ratio, but the total fight's 10.14. And the win's a little bit better here for Penne, as both these ladies are beating, 500 competition, but it's much more experienced fighters that Penne's beating. And, we haven't seen Ricci lose to anybody but Fiorot, and Penne's losing to good girls too, 1.53 ratio and 9.5 total fights. We can see the names on the resume: Andrade, Danielle Taylor, Lupi, Karolina Kovacevic, Emily Ducote. And then you got Ricci here with Poliana Viana, Maria Oliveira, Manon Fiorot, Shauna Ormsby, and Vanessa Grimes. So I'm picking Tabatha Ricci to win this fight. Jessica's taller, Jessica's longer, and she has the experience, the finish stats, and the strength of schedule advantages. But Tabatha's 12 years younger. She's probably more durable. She has the pressure going for her in the striking exchanges to potentially make up for her lack of reach, and the grappling advantage here in terms of being the more likely fighter to choose whether it goes to the ground or not. I'm going to go with the younger fighter here and pick her to win by decision, but I wouldn't lay this kind of juice in what amounts to a grappler versus grappler fight, where one of the fighters is at a size, experience, and strength of schedule disadvantage here. So, yeah, picking Tabatha Ricci to win this one, but not betting her. I'm not laying that juice. I'm not parlaying her money line. I'm just picking her to win this fight. The next one is going to be an interesting one, you guys. Aleksei Oleinik, the old man, looking for one more win at plus 158, going against the Easter Island head of Ilir Latifi at minus 183. The fight doesn't go to decision, juiced up to minus 215 here. Let me get a sip of this lovely beverage here, the Rawaka Mania, courtesy of Hot Butcher Brewery. Hang on just a second, folks. Got to wet my whistle here, I'm working hard. So we've broken this fight down before, Oleinik Latifi. It's a wild fight. It's a weird fight. But let's just go through the notes that I have here and let's break it down. The measurables, I'm giving the advantage to Oleinik here, as he's the much bigger dude. He's the natural heavyweight, while Latifi is just a 205er. He's 4 inches taller, got a 7-inch reach advantage, does Oleinik, while Latifi is 6 years the younger fighter here in comparison to Oleinik. Now, obviously, Oleinik has the experience advantage because he has the experience advantage over every mixed martial artist on the planet. He's got 53. He's got 53 more professional fights in comparison to Latifi. He's got almost 200 more minutes in the pro cage, and he's been a pro for over 11 more years. Aleksei also has 2 more UFC fights, but it's Latifi who has almost 20 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, I'm giving the advantage to Oleinik for the finish stats and to Latifi for the durability. Aleksei is an incredible finisher. He has a 92% career finish rate in 60 pro wins. For those of you who can't do the math right off the top of your head, because you don't have a statistics degree from the Harvard of the Midwest, Northern Illinois University, go Huskies, like your Uncle Weezy does, that's 47 submissions and 8 knockouts for Aleksei Oleinik in his career. Now, Latifi, he's got a 67% finish rate, finishing 10 of his 15 wins inside the distance, 6 by knockout, 4 by submission. It's Latifi who's been more durable as a pro, as he's been finishing 4 of 8 pro losses, while for Aleksei, he's been finished 11 times in 16 pro losses, 9 times by knockout, 2 times by submission. When it comes to the striking, I mean, I'm going to call it even because both these guys suck as strikers, plain and simple. Aleksei just kind of wings bombs, and he throws a lot more volume. So, I mean, if this thing were to be a 15-minute striking match, I mean, Aleksei probably wins, but Latifi does throw with a lot of power. They call him the sledgehammer, and he just throws that overhand right, and he tries to find a home for it. And if he does, you're probably going to sleep because the dude's built like a fire hydrant, and he's just got muscle on top of him, on top of muscle. So when he coils up and throws with power, if it lands, you're in a whole heap of trouble. But Oleinik's very unorthodox on the feet. He's got 50% striking accuracy. He's landed 1 knockdown, it looks like. Or I'm sorry, he's landed 2 knockdowns in 16 fights, while Latifi has landed 5 knockdowns in 14 fights. But, Oleinik, a 46% striking defense is not good. Both these guys are getting knocked down a decent amount of times here. So in the striking, it would be close, and it would be very hard to watch. But in the grappling, the advantage goes to Oleinik, and that's specifically in the submission grappling, obviously. Aleksei's the most dangerous submission grappler in the division. He can get finishes from on top or from the bottom. 60% of his UFC fights have taken place in control time positions, while for Latifi, it's only 30%. Latifi has a better control time ratio, though, winning 90% of his control time positions, while for Oleinik, it's a little over 60%. That being said, Latifi hasn't been a control time monster, as he has about 28% control time for, which isn't even as good as Aleksei's 35% control time for. So Latifi has 100% takedown defense in 7 attempts against, but he's only had 7 takedowns shot on him in 14 fights. But if he wants to keep this fight standing, he has a good chance of achieving that objective. But the thing about Oleinik is he doesn't necessarily need a takedown. You could look at the Vanderhoff fight. He kind of like dove in on a single leg, and when he didn't get it, he was happy to drop to his back and let Vanderhoff get on top of him. And then he was just going to scramble and scramble and scramble until he eventually wound up getting top position, and that's exactly what happened. And as soon as he got top position, he worked for the scarf hold and got it and got the tap out. So Latifi will be the guy that probably does better in terms of being able to get the fight to the ground if he wants it there, and being able to keep the fight standing if he wants it there, and being the guy that will be more likely to win minutes on top because he's more likely to get on top. But, every minute that you spend on the ground with a guy of Oleinik's quality, you really are taking, a lot of chances here. So Latifi is a guy that I think people are just going to expect to win minutes in the grappling here. But look, 27.3% is not enough. 2.02 takedowns per 15 minutes is not enough to count on somebody to win enough minutes with the top control in order to win this fight, because Aleksei's probably going to be doing more on the feet, and Aleksei's going to be hunting for submissions on the ground. People are talking about how heavy Latifi is on top. He's a 205er. He's not a heavyweight. So if you don't think that Aleksei Oleinik's had bigger dudes on top of him than Ilir Latifi, you're kidding yourself. He's got 77 pro fights. So I'm not really worried about Latifi here. I think this line is completely wrong. I think the wrong fighter's favored. I have a 1-unit bet on Aleksei Oleinik to win this fight. Here, let's look at the the strength of schedule here. I'm giving the strength of schedule even as well. But it's Oleinik who's been fighting heavyweights, and Latifi who's been fighting light heavyweights. So we got to keep that in mind. But Latifi has the better ratio and the better total fights overall. But in the wins, I favor Oleinik here, as he's got the better ratio and the slightly more experienced competition in his wins. And then it's just Latifi's got a little bit better losses here. But, in summary, Oleinik has the size and length advantages, the experience advantage. He's the way better finisher, and he has the submission grappling advantage. While Ilir Latifi is 6 years younger, he's more durable. He has the better power numbers in the striking, and he's the better wrestler and minute winner in the grappling. I like Aleksei to win this fight. I think he has way more finishing equity here, and I think he probably is the more likely minute winner on the feet due to the fact that he actually throws punches and Ilir doesn't. I don't get why Ilir is the favorite here, so Aleksei by submission is going to be the pick for this fight. Very interesting fight. I hope it happens. I hope Latifi makes weight, but he's had problems the last couple of times, and I think that's another thing that we got to worry about with Latifi. Is he's pulled out of a couple of fights too, so I don't know where his health is at. While we know that Aleksei Oleinik knows only one thing in his 45 years in this life, and that's showing up for fights and winning them. This next fight, though, you guys, is such a banger. Mike Davis against Slavaklaus, Viacheslav Borshchev. It's Davis who's the -170 favorite, and Borshchev who's +145 is the underdog, and the fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at -120 here. And we've got the stats over here, and here we go. The measurables advantage goes to Davis here, as he's the bigger dude with the 1-inch height advantage and a 3-inch reach advantage. Borshchev is just a little bit younger, but it's less than a year. The experience advantage also goes to Mike Davis, as he's got 3 more professional fights. He's got 33 more minutes in the pro cage and has been a pro for 4 years longer. And he also has 1 more fight at the UFC level and 30 more minutes in the UFC cage. Borshchev has been the more active fighter as a pro, fighting 8 times in just over 3 years, while Davis has 11 fights in just over 7 years. With the finish stats and durability, I'm going to call it even. Both guys are great finishers. Davis, 89% finish rate as a pro. Slava, 83% finish rate as a pro. Both guys primarily get knockouts, but Davis also has a win by Kimura. Davis has been subbed in 1 of 2 pro losses, while Slava's never been finished. This category is pretty much dead even. When it comes to the striking, this is close. Both of these guys are excellent strikers. I'm going to call it even in the striking. They're both high level, right? We got Borshchev in its smaller sample size has nice metrics with 1.24 knockdowns per 15 minutes, 63% accuracy, and a 0.21 significant strike differential, while Davis has a 54% striking accuracy, 0.56 knockdowns per 15 minutes, and he's got a 57.4% striking defense. Borshchev is more kick-heavy, while Davis has more of a traditional boxing style. These guys are very, very evenly matched on the feet, and they're both very dangerous on the feet. But where the difference in this fight is the grappling. And I got to give the advantage to Davis here, obviously. Slava has terrible takedown defense. And before the Diakese fight, he showed a great get-up game, but that ended once Diakese got in the cage. Slava's been controlled by his opponents almost 63% of his 24.25 minutes in the UFC cage. Davis has a wrestling background and definitely has the ability to mix in takedowns, and he definitely should here. The problem is that Davis has only 5.14% control time in his over 50 minutes in the UFC cage. So if you're counting on him to win a ton of minutes on the ground here, we haven't seen that from him at the UFC level thus far. That being said, Davis will be the guy who's way more likely to win minutes with his wrestling, and he also has the ability to win moments with his submission attempts. Davis is the far better grappler. Wrestling, submission, grappling, you name it. He's better. When it comes to the strength of schedule, the advantage goes to Davis here. Let me see. We can see that Davis has the better ratio overall, and he's also fighting the more experienced competition. Neither one of these dudes has impressive UFC wins thus far, but Davis is definitely the better ratio and total fights metrics at the UFC level. And especially in that overall category due to the fact that he's fought killers like Sodiq, Yusuff, and Gilbert Burns. So in summary here, Davis has the measurables advantage. Davis has the experience advantage. He's got the grappling and the strength of schedule advantages here, as well as the fact that Slava is taking this fight on short notice, and Mike Davis was preparing for Uros Medic. That's the guy he was supposed to fight. And Medic is a similar style to Borshchev. So Slava's got excellent kickboxing, and he's a shade younger, and he's been the busier fighter as a pro. But I think Davis should win this fight. But he's on an over 20-month layoff. He's been extremely inactive, and he needs to do something we haven't seen him do thus far at the UFC level in order to justify this line. And that's he's got to win a lot of minutes with his wrestling and top control. I think Davis wins the fight, but I think the best bet is the Slava money line at plus 150. Look, this line right here, you see Davis sitting at minus 200 on some sites. Minus 170 here on Bet Online, but it's minus 200, right, on FanDuel. And, I mean, that's a big assumption. You know, you're only paying minus 170 for Mike Davis here if you are very confident that he's going to wrestle, and not only wrestle, but get multiple takedowns and win, you know, maybe 8 or 9 of the 15 minutes on the ground. Because if he doesn't, I don't think he pays off this price tag. I mean, if this is a 15-minute striking match, I think that this should look minus 115 a piece. Slava's been a lot busier lately, you know, and I mean, I don't even know what Mike Davis's health is like. You know, I heard Narco Cop yesterday on the Die Hard MMA podcast with Clint, and he was saying that he had Mike Davis in one of his spaces, and that Davis was saying the reason that he hasn't fought since January is because, or January of 2021, mind you, is because he's got some health issues. So I don't know what all of that entails, but the bottom line is that I cannot justify laying minus 175 on Mike Davis here, because I need to be proven that he can win minutes, and a lot of them in the wrestling at the UFC level, because I'm even seeing dudes he's taken down on the regional scene get back up. So if Borshchev can get back up a couple of times, I could see Borshchev taking over late, because I love his conditioning as well. So my favorite bet for this fight is the plus 150 money line on Viacheslav Borshchev, but I do think that Mike Davis should probably win this fight. The next fight is going to be John Sexy Mexi Castaneda against, we got Daniel Willikach Santos. So Santos is plus 160, Sexy Mexi minus 185, and the fight doesn't go to decision, sitting here at minus 105. Hang on just a second, and let's see here. Okay, very good. Let's get the notes up on the screen, and let's get the stats up on the screen. So I think this gets us to the main card. There are going to be 6 fights on this main card. And there we go. Castaneda Santos. So the measurables advantage I'm giving to Castaneda in this fight. John's got a 4-inch reach advantage, and he's a switch stance fighter, while Willie Catch has a 1-inch height advantage and is over 3 years younger here. The experience advantage also goes to Castaneda, as he's got 14 more professional fights, as we can see right there. Almost 140 more minutes in the pro cage, and almost 1 more year as a pro fighter does Castaneda. He's been the far busier fighter with 24 fights in 10 years, while Willie Cat has 10 fights in a 9-year career. So Santos has been very inactive, and Castaneda has been very active. John has also got the UFC experience advantage here with 3 more fights at the UFC level and 40 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and durability, also giving that advantage to Castaneda, as John is a great finisher. He's finishing 74% of his 19 pro wins inside the distance, 7 by knockout, 7 by submission, so he's an equal opportunity finisher. John has also finished 2 of his 3 UFC wins inside the distance, 1 by knockout, won by submission. Santos has a 63% career finish rate. He's got 4 knockouts and 1 submission. Both guys are very durable, as Castaneda has only been finished once in 5 career losses by submission, and Willie Cat has never been finished in 2 pro losses. So, yeah, these guys are both very, very durable. And I mean, like, Santos took a couple of square head kicks from Julio Arce, and he ate them like pancakes. So that was really something. But yeah, these are 2 very durable fighters here. Now, the striking advantage, I'm going to give to Castaneda. This is an analytics advantage here. I think these guys are fairly evenly matched in the striking, to be honest with you. Santos in his UFC debut versus Arce was outlanded 127-49. And Willie Cat landed his strikes at a 21.4% accuracy. So Castaneda, he's got a negative 0.13 significant strike differential with 46% accuracy and 0.53 knockdowns for 15 minutes. He's never been knocked down, and he has a 56% striking defense. Santos is a pressure fighter who walks forward, throws lots of spinning kicks, and has at least 2 finishes by spinning kick to the body. Castaneda looks great when he pressures, like he did in round 2 against Miles Johns. However, I'm not sure if Santos will let Castaneda pressure him, as Santos always is the one walking forward. I think this is going to be very close on the feet. And I've noticed that I really, really like Castaneda's striking when he's the one pressuring. I don't think he's going to be the one pressuring in this fight. You watch this guy, Santos, and he is constantly walking forward, constantly pressuring, and he trusts his chin and is able to do that because he has such a good chin. So I think that Santos's pressure is going to take that striking advantage on paper that Castaneda has and make this very even on the feet. When it comes to the grappling, got to give that advantage to Castaneda here. He's a very well-rounded fighter. He's got a wrestling background, and he's got a very good top game. His arm triangle choke is deadly, and I've seen him sleep both Marcelo Rojo and Miles Johns with it. Both were out so fast that neither one of them had time to tap. Santos definitely prefers to strike, and both guys have spent at least 93% of their UFC cage time at striking distance. So I do expect this to be a striking match, but I think Castaneda will be the more likely fighter to initiate and win minutes in the grappling exchanges here, however unlikely that might be. But frankly, I think we are going to see Castaneda mix in the wrestling here, because I think the pressure of Santos is going to get to him. And when we did see Santos have trouble on the regional scene, it was over there in Russia against those crazy Russian wrestlers out there who can just wrestle for 15 minutes straight. And that's exactly what they did to Santos. I don't think Castaneda has the kind of gas tank in order to push a wrestling heavy game plan for 15 minutes against Santos like those guys over in ACB did. But I think if he mixes in the wrestling here and stays on his bike when they're on the feet, he should be able to do enough to win this fight. The strength of schedule advantage also goes to Castaneda. I'll get those stats up on the screen for you here. Just because John has 4 UFC level fights in comparison to Santos and much more experience. Over the long haul, he's fought the more experienced, better win-loss ratio competition. But Santos has been tested twice regionally in ACB, and he made his debut against Julio Arce, who's a very good fighter. So in summary, Castaneda has a 4-inch reach advantage. He's a switch stance fighter, and he's got the overall and the UFC experience advantage. He's got the better UFC and overall finish rates, and he's the more equal opportunity finisher, having as many finishes by knockout as he does by submission. The striking, the grappling, and the strength of schedule advantages, they all go to Castaneda here. While Santos is younger, he's 1 inch taller, and he's got good power on the feet, and he throws unorthodox techniques, and is very durable, and he's got great moment-winning potential on the feet due to how strange and unorthodox some of the techniques that he chooses to throw are. I like Castaneda to win this one by decision, but I think the line is too wide. I think Daniel Santos is going to be very live here, but the bet that I do have on this fight is the over 2.5 rounds. I got it on Caesars William Hill at minus 145. And, in one of 7 combined losses for these guys has been a finish. And the last time anybody finished either one of these guys, I think it was back in 2014, and it was a submission loss for John Castaneda very early in his career. So, look, I think Castaneda probably wins this fight, but the only tracked bet for this fight is the over 2.5 at minus 145. I'm banking on these guys' durability, and I think that this fight does go the distance because both guys are so durable, and because I think that a lot of this fight probably will take place on the fence due to Santos's pressure and potentially on the ground due to Castaneda's wrestling. So the pick is Castaneda. The bet is the over 2.5 at minus 145. Next fight is Sodiq Yusuff versus Don Shameless Sheamus. Let's see here. Let's get these lines up on the screen for you guys. So Sodiq Yusuff is a minus 1,100 favorite. Shainis plus 750, and the fight doesn't go to decision is minus 325 here on Bet Online. Okay. So we don't need to spend much time on this fight. Yusuff's got a massive measurables advantage here. He's 3 years younger, 3 inches taller, 4.5-inch reach advantage. The experience advantage goes to Sodiq. He's got one less pro fight than Shainis, but Yusuff has over 40 more minutes in the pro cage. He's got 7 more UFC level fights and over 80 more minutes in the UFC cage as Don Shainis is making his UFC debut on short notice against Yusuff here. The finish stats and the durability advantage actually goes to Shainis here, as Don has the better finish rate as a pro, 84% in comparison to only 50% for Yusuff, and he's been finished less in his losses, as Shainis has only been finished at a 33% rate, and for Yusuff, it's a 50% rate. The striking advantage definitely goes to Yusuff. This really isn't going to be close on the feet at all. Yusuff is better in all aspects of striking and on the feet. The grappling advantage also goes to Yusuff. Yusuff is, not much of a wrestler. He's only gotten 1 takedown in 8 attempts, but he's had 19 attempted against him, and he's given up less than 12% control time against. The 68.5% takedown defense is solid, not great, not horrible, but his get-up game has been excellent, as people have not really been able to hold him down. He's yielded less than 17% control time against on 19 takedown attempts in 7 UFC fights. So I don't see Sodiq having a problem stopping down shots or getting back up if he does get taken down here. But Shainis is a good wrestler. If you watch him on the regional scene, he's got great sweeps when he gets taken down. Now, he's very easy to take down. If Yusuff wants to take down Shainis, he can do it whenever he wants. Shainis has some of the worst takedown defense I've ever seen. But what he does have that's excellent are great elevator sweeps from the bottom. He just gets those feet up on the hips and he turns you and gets on top. So Shainis is able to get sweeps. His top control is very good, and his ground and pound is very good. And his conditioning is also very good. He's going to be much smaller, though, and he's going to be way outgunned on the feet. And I just don't see him being able to take down and hold down Sodiq Yusuff. And if he can't do that, I think it's just a matter of time before Sodiq finds his chin and knocks this dude out, because Sadiq's got a crazy amount of power in his hands. The strength of schedule advantage goes to Sodiq Yusuff. Sadiq's fought, beaten, and lost to the far superior competition in his career. If we look at these last 5, Caceres, Arnold Allen, Andre Philly, Gabriel Benitez, Shaman Moraes, and then you see Quentin Weiland, Chris Lencioni, Jay Ellis with 106 losses, Cody Pfister, who's one of the worst UFC fighters to ever make the walk, Bruce Picard, and Shainis even got rocked by Picard early in that fight before Picard kind of gassed out early and gave up. But Shainis did have a good comeback in that fight. But Shainis needs a miracle here. I mean, Sadiq's going to be better everywhere. Don Shainis is definitely going to run into a dick saw on Saturday here. This is going to be Yusuff all day. Shainis is in a whole heap of trouble here. And like I said, I think it's going to be the dick saw for Shainis, and Yusuff probably gets this done in the first or second round. But this is Yusuff all day. But the line is basically unbettable at this price. So let's not even talk about the line at minus 1,100. So let's go to this next fight. Hani Barcelos at minus 220 going up against Trevin Jones at plus 185. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at minus 105 here. We've got a measurables advantage here for Trevin Jones, as he's 3 years younger. He's got a 3-inch reach advantage, and he's a southpaw to Hani's orthodox. The experience advantage goes to Jones overall, but to Barcelos at the UFC level here. As we can see, Jones has got 3 more pro fights. He's got over 50 more minutes in the pro cage, and he's also got 1 more year as a pro fighter, does Trevin Jones. But it's Hani who has the UFC experience advantage, though, with 3 more fights at the UFC level and almost 50 more minutes in the UFC cage. When it comes to the finish stats and the durability, I'm just going to call it even. Close numbers here. Both guys are hard to finish, have never been knocked out, and both dudes have career finish rates between 55 and 65%. Trevin has finished both of his UFC wins, and for Hani, he's finished 3 of his 5 UFC wins. The striking advantage, I'm going to give to Barcelos here. Trevin has power, and he can definitely win moments in the striking. He's a righty who fights southpaw, and his check right hook is his most dangerous weapon. Hani has better metrics pretty much everywhere. Accuracy, 52% compared to 42% for Trevin. The significant strike differential, a positive 0.34 for Hani, and it's negative 2.1 for Trevin Jones. The knockdowns per 15 minutes, 0.66 for Hani to 0.71 for Jones. So Jones just a little bit better there. The striking defense, though, for Barcelos, way better at 61% compared to 42% for Trevin Jones. And the knockdowns allowed per 15 minutes. Hani's never been knocked down, while Jones is absorbing 0.35 per 15 minutes. Barcelos should easily win minutes in the striking, but both guys do have the potential to win moments. Trevin's got a lot of power in that right hand, and he keeps it up front, so he can hit you with that check right hook. And Barcelos has got good power in both hands, and he's got really nice technical boxing. The grappling advantage, that goes to Barcelos. Both guys are very accomplished grapplers. But Barcelos averages 1.66 takedowns for 15 minutes to Jones 0.71. And he's got a 93% takedown defense compared to 71% for Jones. Both guys outcontrol their opponents at nice ratios. However, if one fighter has a better chance to dictate where the fight takes place, it's clearly Barcelos who has the more efficient wrestling, as he's getting his takedowns at a 43.48% clip, while Trevin Jones is only getting his at a 12.5% clip. See, both guys doing a nice job of out-controlling their opponents here. But you see a 93% takedown defense for Hani Barcelos and a 71% takedown defense for Trevin Jones. So Barcelos gets his takedowns at a higher percentage, and he defends takedowns at a much higher percentage. So if Hani ever doesn't like how it's going on the feet, I think he can take down Trevin Jones. And Jones is much better in the grappling when he's on top compared to when he's on the bottom here. So I think Barcelos is going to have a big-time grappling advantage here due to the fact that he's the much better wrestler. The strength of schedule, I'm calling even. Trevin Jones has a 6 ratio overall, which is crazy. 1.44 for Barcelos, but it's more experienced competition for Barcelos. But the wins aren't that impressive. He's fighting guys with only 4 total fights and a 1.5 ratio, while Trevin Jones is beating winning competition here. So I'm calling the strength of schedule even. Neither guy has much of an advantage. Even though Hani has more UFC fights, Jones has fought to nothing but studs here at the UFC level. No advantage for either fighter, because Trevin Jones came in and fought Timur Valiev and knocked him out and beat him, while Hani Barcelos actually lost to Timur Valiev by majority decision. And then he's got a knockout over a stud in Mario Batista. He lost to Said Yakub Kakramanov in a close fight, but he got subbed late there. And he lost to Javid Basharat, who's a fantastic prospect. While Barcelos has wins over a lot of bums, but he does have 2 great wins over Said Nurmagomedov and Gutierrez. He's got a win over Chris Gutierrez as well. But the other wins against Joaquim, against Taha, against one other guy, they're not great wins. And the losses to Valiev and Henry back-to-back are worrisome. But I think Ronnie's better everywhere, you guys, everywhere. In my opinion, Trevin Jones brings nothing but a puncher's chance into this fight. He has to hope that he lands a big right hook. And if he does, he could change the trajectory of this fight and win this fight. But he's not a minute winner. He loses minutes in the striking. He loses minutes in the grappling due to the fact that he's only getting his takedowns at a 12.5% clip. I think Ronnie by decision is how this one's going to go, and that's going to be the pick. It's going to be Hani Barcelos by decision in this fight. And I think we've got 2 more fights to break down here. Yep, we've got Randy Rude Boy Brown going up against Francisco Trinaldo, the ageless one. And let's see. We've got a measurables advantage here for Randy Brown, as he's 12 years younger, 6 inches taller, and has an 8-inch reach advantage here over Trinaldo, who's the natural lightweight, while Randy Brown is just a massive welterweight. And then Trinaldo is a southpaw, though, to Randy Brown's orthodox. Trinaldo, very experienced here, as he's got 17 more pro fights in comparison to Brown, about 240 more minutes in the pro cage, and 8 more years as a pro. He's also got 12 more fights at the UFC level and about 170 more minutes in the UFC cage. It's Brown who's the better finisher at the UFC level and overall. It's a 73% finish rate overall for Randy Brown, a 50% finish rate overall for Trinaldo. And Trinaldo's finishing his UFC wins at a 39% rate, while for Randy Brown, it's a 55% rate. But it's Trinaldo who's been much more durable, as he's only been finishing 38% of his losses, while for Randy Brown, it's 75% of his losses. Brown finished in 3 of 4 UFC losses. Trinaldo only finished in 2 of 7 UFC losses. When it comes to the striking, I'm giving the advantage to Brown here. He's going to have an 8-inch reach advantage and a 6-inch height advantage here. And he's got a really good significant strike differential here, as he lands 1.1 more significant strikes per minute than he absorbs, while Trinaldo lands 0.55 more. Trinaldo's got a better defense up here at 61%. Both guys are landing a knockdown on about 0.5% of the strikes that they land. But it's Brown who's got the edge in knockdowns per 15 minutes, while Trinaldo's been knocked down a little bit less per 15 minutes. But I do like Randy Brown to win the striking exchanges here, because it's going to be really difficult for Francisco Trinaldo to close the distance here. And he's not exactly known for being a great pressure fighter. And if he gets sloppy with the pressure, he might walk into one of those Randy Brown knees, which could end his night. When it comes to the grappling, Trinaldo is going to be the better grappler here. He's gotten takedowns when he's needed them. He's got good enough takedown defense, and he can handle himself on the ground. Brown has shown 71% takedown defense, but he's getting out-controlled by his opponents by about 7%. But he can get takedowns when he wants them, but he's not exactly the kind of guy that's going to go and take you down and then ride out a round on top. Brown is probably going to want to keep this fight standing, keep it at distance, and use that length advantage and pick them apart from distance, while Trinaldo tries fruitlessly to close the distance here. When it comes to the strength of schedule, also got to give Randy Brown that advantage, as he's got the much better ratio overall, and he's got the better ratio in his wins. But it is Francisco Trinaldo who's got a bigger sample size of UFC fights to draw from, and who's been fighting the more experienced competition in comparison to Randy Brown. But keep in mind, Trinaldo's been fighting 155ers, while Randy Brown's been fighting guys up at 170. Great fights here against Worley Alves, Luque, Alex Oliveira, Jared Gooden, and Chaos Williams here, while Trinaldo's also been fighting some good competition. Danny Roberts, Dwight Grant, Salikov, Jay Herbert, John McDussey. But, this has got to be Randy Brown here. The thing is, he's 12 years younger. He's got those huge measurables advantages. And I think he's going to be the far more powerful striker here, the far flashier striker, and the guy that's going to land the memorable strikes. I don't think he's going to get Francisco Trinaldo out of there, though. So I think Randy Brown is going to win this one by decision. And that is going to be the pick. The line, maybe it's parlayable, but it's just a little bit wide in my opinion here. But yeah, I think Randy Brown, I think the Rude Boy gets the job done and continues that upward trajectory. He's an exciting fighter. He's an unorthodox fighter. He's an explosive fighter. And I'm really looking forward to him getting the job done here over the 56-year-old Francisco Trinaldo. And then that brings us to the main event of the evening. We've got Mackenzie Dern against Yan Xiaonan. 73 of you hanging out here live with your Uncle Weezy on a Tuesday night. I appreciate each and every one of you. If you haven't hit that thumbs up video or that thumbs up button yet, hit that. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do that. If you haven't subscribed to the MMA Engine YouTube channel yet, do that. Probability is going on over there every Monday night after the Die Hard MMA podcast. And we have been stacking cash tickets like flapjacks on that show with that data-driven approach that we've been taking to the time props. So make sure you do that. And if you haven't signed up for the Patreon, patreon.com/Uncle Weezy. Go check that out. $5 a month gives you access to all these beautiful stats that I work so hard putting together every week. And I would appreciate having your support to continue putting these together for the people. But that brings us down to the main event, you guys, where we've got, and I never even showed the line here. Randy Rude Boy Brown minus 330, Trinaldo plus 270, and the fight doesn't go, sitting at plus 100. So Mackenzie Dern is minus 232. Yan Xiaonan plus 197. Fight doesn't go to decision, juiced up to minus 200 here. Let's see. I have got no notes for this one, so let's just wing it. Mackenzie Dern's 4 years younger, but Yan Xiaonan is 1 inch taller, and they have identical reach and identical stance. Mackenzie Dern training with Perillo out there, and then also at Black House and a couple other places as well, and is China top team for Yan Xiaonan. So Xiaonan has the experience advantage with 3 more pro fights, 30 more minutes in the pro cage, and more than 6 more years as a pro mixed martial artist. But it's Mackenzie Dern who has 1 more fight at the UFC level, despite the fact that Yan Xiaonan has about 15 more minutes in the UFC cage. It's going to be Dern who's the better finisher here at 58% overall, while it's 38% for Yan Xiaonan. Yan has never finished any of her UFC wins, while Dern has finished 4 of her 7 UFC wins. And then we've got the submission. Yan has been finished once by submission, once by knockout, and once by decision, while Mackenzie Dern has never been finished. The striking is going to be Yan Xiaonan here. Fantastic volume, fantastic striking accuracy, fantastic striking defense, an excellent significant strike differential of positive 1.9, and she's throwing about 3.5 more significant strike attempts per minute than her opponents do. So Yan is a fantastic minute winner on the feet. Mackenzie Dern is getting outlanded on the feet. She's got about a negative 1.2 significant strike differential per minute. She throws less volume than her opponents. She has a 35% striking accuracy, but she has landed 1 knockdown in 9 fights, while Yan has landed 0 knockdowns in 8 fights. Mackenzie has been knocked down once, though, in 9 fights. But when it comes to the grappling, it's all Dern. Dern is one of the best grapplers on the planet. She is the best grappler in the women's strawweight division, with Virna Jandiroba probably being a very close second, and Carla Esparza probably being the best wrestler in the division, since we haven't seen Tatiana Suarez in forever. So the problem with Dern, though, is the takedown accuracy of 9.09%. She's only gotten 3 of the 33 takedowns that she's attempted, while Yan has actually gotten 8 takedowns in only 12 attempts. So she's at about a third of as many takedown attempts as Mackenzie Dern and has more than twice as many actual takedowns. But the problem is that Jan is showing less than desirable 65% takedown defense, and she's been controlled 22% of her 112 minutes in the UFC cage, which is about 23, 24 minutes that she's been controlled on those 8 takedowns that she's absorbed. So Mackenzie Dern might only need 1 takedown. She is attempting about 2 submissions per 15 minutes, and she can get any submission in the book. And she's just so tricky. She's so deliberate. She moves position. She trains her submissions together so well. She can go from armbar to triangle to calf slicer to leg lock to Kimura to rear naked choke to Darce. I mean, she can just chain them. She's 4 steps ahead of you mentally into where she's going to go. And if you give her enough time to work on the ground, eventually she's going to find the submission. And we saw that Jan looked like a fish out of water on the ground against Carla Esparza. And we saw Carla get one of her first finishes in years by just being able to take down Jan twice, dump her out with a single leg, and then just do that work from the top. So that's the reason why Mackenzie Dern is such a big favorite here, is because Jan has not looked good on the ground. And we can count, or at least we think we can count on Mackenzie Dern to pressure her opponent, to walk forward like she did in the Tisha Torres fight, like she did at certain aspects of the Marina Rodriguez fight. And she doesn't even need a takedown. She can just try to take your back standing, or she can pull guard, or she could go for an Imanari roll, for Christ's sake. There's a number of different ways that Mackenzie Dern can get this into the grappling, get this into the clinch, and then from there, she can start to work her submission game. Now, we are assuming, though, at the line that it's at, that she is going to pressure and that she is going to get this to the ground and that she is going to get to engage in the grappling exchanges. That's baked into the line already. And if Mackenzie Dern sits and strikes at distance for 15 minutes like she did against Amanda Ribas, you're going to be putting a hammer through your TV. You're going to be so pissed off. So try not to make assumptions when you're laying juice on women's MMA. And we are making assumptions that Mackenzie Dern is going to pressure. She is going to attempt a lot of takedowns. She is going to try to get this to the clinch. She is going to do whatever it takes to get this inside of boxing range and on to the fence and into the grappling exchanges, and preferably onto the mat with her on top. But the pick is going to be Mackenzie Dern to win by submission inside the distance. But I think that Yan Xiaonan, she knows what she has to do to win this fight. She needs to keep it standing. And if she's able to, in the small cage, which is going to be a challenge, to move laterally, to keep her feet moving, stay on her bike, not let Mackenzie get her pinned, up against that cage, she might be able to win a lot of minutes in this fight. But Mackenzie looked really good against Tisha Torres. She did everything in her power to get the fight where she would be at her best. And it showed a lot of maturity. It showed a lot of growth to me. And I think she's going to be a problem as long as she continues to pressure like Khabib did. And if she continues to do that, I think she's going to win this fight, win it easily inside the distance by submission. We did it. We broke down all 13 fights on the card, you guys. Gave you a good look at all the stats. Gave you a good look at a couple time props that I'm looking at here. So let's talk about the tracked bets that I have thus far for UFC Vegas 61. They're on the ticker here. So there's only 3 of them so far. There's a couple others that I'm looking at. The Aleksei Oleinik money line, 1 unit bet at plus 158. I told you all the reasons that I think I like Aleksei here. And Latifi is just not impressive to me. And I think people are just assuming he's going to win like 8 or 9 minutes in the grappling here. And I think that's a huge assumption to make. And I don't think it's very likely that he does. And I don't see him knocking anybody out at this level. He's not a heavyweight. Aleksei's been hit by a lot harder, and he's been in there with a lot more powerful dudes than Latifi. So love the Aleksei Oleinik money line at plus 158. I've got that Castaneda Santos over 2.5 at minus 145. I'm counting on the durability of both guys here. and I'm counting on a fight that takes place a lot in the clinch here and in control time positions. So I think that fight goes over 2.5, and minus 145 is not a bad price. It's like minus 160 and minus 155 everywhere else. So I think I'm going to beat a little bit of line movement there, and I think we're probably going to see that close somewhere around minus 180. And then the Cannetti Costa under 1.5 at minus 145, also for 1.45 units to win one. Violence, plain and simple. Costa's only been over 1.5 rounds once in his career. Both of these guys are very fast starters. Both of these guys fight like they're double parked. And I really do think that somebody's going to get served early in this fight. And then I'll be cashing that ticket and starting off the night up 1 unit and hopefully just building it from there. But it's a rough week for gambling, you guys. There's not a lot of spots that are sticking out. There's a lot of old fighters on this card, a lot of fighters coming off of layoffs, a lot of guys that don't have much of a sample size of fights over the last couple of years, so it's hard to be confident about either side. So let's try to tread lightly. Let's try to pick only the spots that stick out, and don't make the bookies force us into making bets that we don't need to make. But that leaves us with only one order of business, you guys, and it's Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week. What are we going to do here this week, you guys? There's a bunch of good options. Now, I'm not giving you, Sodiq Yusuff. Yes, I do think Don Shainis is going to run into a dick saw on Saturday. Yeah, I think Shainis is going to have a very rough night and he's going to get his ass shaved. But he's minus 1,100 as Yusuff, so you don't need me to tell you that. And Randy Rude Boy Brown is minus 330. So you don't really need me to tell you that he's going to shave the 71-year-old man's ass in Francisco Trinaldo. But you know what? Trinaldo has this habit of making fights really close against some really good competition. So I'm not even giving you Randy Rude Boy Brown, even though I think he does win, and I think he might even get it done inside the distance. He's a very explosive fighter. And it can't be a woman either. As much as I like Mackenzie Dern in this spot, I can't give you her. I can't give you Stoliarenko because she's female too. And I promised no more female ass shavings for the rest of the year. And I got to regroup and I got to figure out when the time is to take the ass shaving of the week and make it female again. But what are you guys thinking here? Papa Chuck is saying Dern shaves Jan. Yes, but we can't do that. Dern is going to sub Jan. I agree. And Prince of Mischief is saying Randy Brown. And Victor De Jesus saying ass shaving of the week has to be Castaneda. Yeah, and Castaneda's got a lot of advantages everywhere. Prince of Mischief saying Jotko, who couldn't squash a grape, but I think he's going to win. Let's see. We got Stellar saying what up, Weezy? Hope you're doing well. We got Kenny Williams saying, what up, Weezy? Tell Uncle Luke I'm out in Miami too. Oh yeah, that's cool, man. So yeah, who's it gonna be, you guys? Is it gonna be Castaneda? It's actually not. I'm going with a guy that I think is gonna shave some ass over somebody that I think is just kind of marginal. Somebody who maybe got a lucky win last time out. This week, Uncle Weezy's ass shaving of the week is going to be Maxim Grishin to shave the ass of Phillipe Lins. We haven't seen much of Lins lately. We got Grishin will be the bigger guy. He's going to be the taller guy, the beefier guy. He's got more power on the feet. I think that he's the much better minute-winning kickboxer here, while Lins is just going to be out there winging bombs trying to land a lucky shot. And I also think that Grishin is going to be very difficult to take down and hold down here. So I think that Maxim Grishin, with that power in his hands, Lins has been finished in 4 of his 5 pro losses. I'm picking Maxim Grishin to win this one inside the distance by knockout, therefore shaving the ass of Phillipe Lins. I think Lins is going to get served, you guys. I appreciate almost 80 of you that are still hanging out here on a Tuesday night after the Dana White Contender Series, after Bo Nickel got his contract, after everybody else got their contract. You guys, they got their contracts. It's time for us to beat these bookies with a bag of oranges until we juice them and make these pricks cry as they hand us back all the money that we took off of them because we're stacking cash tickets like flapjacks here on Uncle Weezy's channel and here on Just the Tip. So check me out tomorrow on Pub Sports Radio. It won't be Pub Sports Radio. It'll be the Pub Culture TV, their backup channel for the DFS show with DFS by the Numbers, with Monk, and with Gordo Gambles. And then you can also check me out tomorrow night right here on Uncle Weezy's channel for 10:30 Central Time. After the Club and Sub podcast, we're going to do an edition of Ask Weezy for UFC Vegas 61. And then that'll be the end of this week, the content. And you can just check me out on Pub Culture TV for the watch along on Saturday for the fights. And then you guys, let's just stack cash tickets like flapjacks for UFC Vegas 61. God bless each and every one of you guys for hanging out on a Tuesday night. And I will see you tomorrow on Pub Culture TV and tomorrow right here on my channel, 10:30 Central Time for Ask Weezy. Until then, God bless each and every one of you. Sleep well, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.